we got through, or to, Rogue Bludger, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll finish. So we get to the end of that. Did we get any farther? Okay. I'm not going to say much about the Dueling Club, but we got to the end of the Rogue Bludger, and, McGonagall asks who, Dumbledore says how, and we get the who and how italicized. And I think that's because Rowling is using that as foreshadowing for something that's going to come, the reveal, so to speak, at the end of the novel. So, what's the significance of the Dueling Club? Why is that? Why is that chapter kind of needed? Why? Because he speaks Parseltongue in. That's it. That's the only real significance of that chapter, is we discover Harry speaks snake language, okay? And Ron's like, dude, it's just not good. Who else, from what we're told, are the only others who can speak Parseltongue? Slytherin and Voldemort. We're not told that, Dumbledore can't speak it, apparently, and we're not told that anybody else has been able, we get told it was Slytherin's particular or unique gift, etc. So the implication is, well, if Slytherin could speak it, then surely the heir of Slytherin would be able to speak it. Let me back that up. We are going to be told, book 5. There are others who could speak it, right? Book 6, for those of you who've read the books. There are others who can speak it, but they are all what? Heirs of Slytherin. Descendants of Slytherin, okay? Thus Voldemort. So, get to Polyjuice Potion, and Harry goes up and speaks to Dumbledore early on in the chapter. Dumbledore's not there, and Harry puts on the Sorting Hat, which is sitting in Dumbledore's office, page 206. Harry, I wanted to ask, you've been wondering whether I put you in the right house. Yes, you were particularly difficult, but I stand by what I said. You would have done well in Slytherin. And Harry, slams the hat down. No, I wouldn't, blah, blah. So Dumbledore comes in right after Harry looks at this bird that, poof, burns into flame, bursts into flames. And he's like, it's not my fault. I couldn't. Page 207. Dumbledore. It's about time, too. He's been looking dreadful. And he explains. Notice, from book 1 through, I have to be careful how far I go. Well, I'll say through book 6. Book 1 through book 6, seemingly every interaction Dumbledore has with Harry is what kind of interaction? It's a lesson. Dumbledore is first and foremost a teacher. Philosopher's Stone. The third night that Harry goes back to look in the mirror, and there's Dumbledore sitting invisible, okay, on a desk. And notice, he's not wearing an invisibility cloak. He can make himself invisible without one, all right? Which kind of creates a problem that we'll talk about later. But what does he do? He tells Harry, so you've discovered the delights of the Mirror of Erised, blah, 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 blah. And how does he finish the little conversation? Next time, or should you ever see it again, now, he says, you'll be prepared. In other words, he teaches Harry how to use the mirror, and lo and behold, what happens? Harry goes through the trapdoor, there's the mirror, he remembers what Dumbledore said, okay? So every interaction is essentially a teaching moment. And he tells Harry, Fawkes is a phoenix. Phoenixes burst into flame when it is time for them to die and are reborn from the ashes. Watch him. And so he directs Harry's attention to the burned bird, or the pile of ashes. And out of the pile rises this little bald, bird. It's a shame you had to see him on a burning day. And this is Rowling's idea of humor, because it's Fox and it's burning day. Anybody get the joke? Pardon? Guy Fawkes Day. Guy Fawkes, Catholic revolutionary, 1605, 1607. Blanking on the exact date. November 5th, Guy Fawkes and his conspirators attempted to blow up the Houses of Parliament, with Parliament in it. He wanted to overthrow the Protestant King James and install a Catholic, monarchy and such. So every November 5th, remember the 5th of November is this rhyme. Every November 5th, you have Guy Fawkes Day, today, even today in England. And it's also called Burning Day. It's where people go out and they burn these big bonfires and they burn what are called guys, which are big straw figures of a man. What's the thing they do out in they do the same kind of thing. There's an annual event. It started a few years ago out in the Southwest. South by Southwest or something like that. And they have this Burning Man. That's what it is. It's the Burning Man Festival. Okay? It's based kind of loosely on this. So,
I have an ancestor who was involved in the gunpowder plot.
Catesby?
No, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he didn't die.
Okay. So, he says, it's a shame you had to see him on Burning Day. He's really very handsome most of the time. Wonderful red and gold plumage. Fascinating creatures, phoenixes. More teaching. They can carry immensely heavy loads. They're tears of healing powers, and they make highly faithful pets. Now, anybody know, you could probably even just hazard a guess, what are phoenixes symbolic of? Okay, what do they do, he says, on Burning Day? Poof, they burn up, which is symbolic of what? They die, and then they're reborn. They're symbolic of death and resurrection. Go to Shakespeare's church in Stratford-on-Avon, the Trinity Church, and there on the altar, or at least it was there 12, 15 years ago when my family and I were there. I was teaching my Harry Potter course. And you will see, or at least it used to be there, I'm pretty sure it still is, on the altar is this big tapestry. And the tapestry is a phoenix. Why? Throughout the Middle Ages, phoenixes were representative of Christ, who died and rose again. Okay? Notice, they carry immensely heavy loads. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden. My cross, Christ says, is what? Light. I will take your burdens, Or you can do the Bill Withers song, he ain't heavy, he's my brother, come, and I'll take your... Same kind of thing. They are tears of healing powers, and they're highly faithful pets, okay? So, here he says, you don't think it was me, because they start talking about, the things that have been happening. Dumbledore says, no, I don't. And then Dumbledore asks Harry a question, which is kind of interesting in light of what we find out later. Book 5, about Dumbledore. A little bit earlier, but mainly book 5. Page 209. I must ask you, Harry, whether there is anything you'd like to tell me. Anything at all. What's he giving Harry the opportunity to do? Or say? I've been hearing these voices. Rip, tear, kill, blood. But nothing's going on. Everything's cool. He lies through his teeth. All right? Why? Why does Harry lie to Dumbledore? Because he takes Ron's advice. Trust me. Hearing voices, and he kind of says, hearing voices in your world, that's no good, right? Son of Sam and mass killers, they all hear voices telling them to do this thing. It's even worse in our world. So, he says nothing. And you got the little quote, hearing voices no one else can hear isn't a good sign even in the wizarding world. Right? So, they make the Polyjuice Potion, and what do they not discover? Yeah, notice how I put the question. What do they not discover? Keep going. Malfoy is not the heir of Slytherin. Why did they think Malfoy would be the heir of Slytherin? Use the language Quirrell says about Snape at the end of book 1. He does seem the type, doesn't he? I mean, he uses the foul language, mudblood. He's clearly this pure blood Nazi, Nazi-ish kind of adherent, but he's not, right? So, chapter 13, the very secret diary. 232 and 233. When Hermione gets back to Gryffindor Tower, after, she has her tail and whiskers and all that kind of stuff removed from the Polyjuice Potion, Harry shows her T.M. Riddle's diary. Okay? And Ron's like, T.M. Riddle. Hermione, this diary is 50 years old. Okay? Ron. Hermione says, back up. Could have been anything, says Ron. That is, what did Tom Riddle, or T.M. Riddle, get this award for? Ron, could have been anything. Maybe he got 30 owls, or saved a teacher from the giant squid. Maybe he murdered the Myrtle. That would have done everyone a favor. Harry's looking at Hermione. She has a strange look. And Ron says, what? Harry, well, the Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago, wasn't it? That's what Malfoy said. Yeah. And this diary is 50 years old, says Hermione. So, notice Ron's, he's not very good at logically thinking through things. Hermione, we know the person who opened the chamber last time was expelled 50 years ago. We know T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. Okay, now what year is this? 1992 minus 50. So in 1942, this is happening, right? What if Riddle got his special award for catching the heir of Slytherin? His diary would probably tell us everything. Where the chamber is, how to open it, etc., etc. Ron says, brilliant theory, Hermione. What's the problem? The diary's blank. Where's the writing in it? There's nothing written. Might be invisible ink. And so she starts various spells. Nothing happens. Okay? Ron, I'm telling you, Riddle just got a diary for Christmas. He couldn't be bothered filling it in. Harry and Ron keep talking about, and Hermione keep talking about Riddle. Page 234. Little offhand comment that will resonate through later novels. Ron says, he sounds like Percy talking about Riddle. Okay, go back previous paragraph. Riddle's burnished gold shield was tucked away in a corner cabinet. Didn't carry details of what had been given to him. However, they did find Riddle's name on an old medal for magical merit and on a list of head boys. Ron, he sounds like Percy. Prefect, head boy, probably top of every class. Hermione, you say that like it's a bad thing. It's the final comment that Hermione says. You say that like it's a bad thing. Why? What did Harry tell Dobby at the beginning of the school year when he was still back at number 4 Privet Drive? Dobby mentions Harry's greatness. Harry said, Hermione's top of every class. She takes Ron's comment to be kind of a put down on people who are smarter than he is. But it's interesting, Ron equates T.M. Riddle with Percy. All right? So, skip a bit. Harry goes up to his room and drops a blot of ink on the page. And writes, and the ink dissolves, disappears into the page. Harry's like, well, that's interesting. My name is Harry Potter. The words shone and then disappear. And then new words appear. Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How did you come by my diary? Someone tried to flush it down the toilet. Lucky that I recorded my memories in some more lasting way than ink. But I always knew that there would be those who would not want this diary read. Notice how Tom Riddle's diary appeals to Harry. What's the diary tell him? People wouldn't want you to read this. Harry's 12 years old. What's he automatically going to do? I want to read it. I mean, if it's not good, dirty, whatever, show me, I mean, this diary holds memories of terrible things, things that were covered up, things that happened at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. It holds memories. Okay? What do we think, or what are we led to believe memories are? Good. What else, possibly? They're like recordings, right? Like a video. In other words, they're factual. They haven't been modified. They haven't been photoshopped. Okay? What are memories actually really like? Are they those things? Are they factual? Possibly, but factual how?
In a biased kind of way.
How?
Like your own understandings of the world and all that gets.
They're like the news that you could turn on any time of the day, any major news station. What are you getting when you watch the news? Here's an example. Turn on MSNBC and turn on Fox and play them side by side. What's the difference? It's what's behind the news. It's the perspective that's being shown. Every form of news is biased. It's biased how? According to the perspective of the editors, journalists, etc., directors, copywriters behind it. That is, I'm going to show you this, but what does it mean? I'm not going to show you this, and I'm not going to show you this, and I'm not going to show you this. Why? Because we can't see everything. It has to be edited. It has to be selected. Tom Riddle's diary says, this holds memories of terrible things, things that were covered up. It doesn't say it holds the totality of everything, okay? So, Harry and the diary have a conversation. Why is this important? If you were in another professor's 2020 course, I can almost guarantee you'd be required to write probably 3 to 4 papers, okay? those papers would be, your perspective, your understanding, your interpretation of X, Y, Z, and such. Where was I going with that? My brain's just fried. Where was I going with that? I have no idea where I was going with that. That train of thought completely derailed. So I'll drop it. He says on 241, the person who was caught for opening the chamber was expelled. All right. Harry goes into the diary. He sees what happens. And who does he see was caught and therefore expelled? Hagrid. Okay? So, Hagrid, this is 50 years ago. Hagrid, we're told, was a third-year student, right? So, third year, so how old would he have been? 11, 12, 13. So now we're told Hagrid is 63. If you want to play those kinds of games. Hagrid was 63. Tom Riddle was what? He was 2 years older. He was a fifth year. Okay? So Tom Riddle, at this point, if he were alive, would be 65. Okay? Harry wakes up Ron and tells him what? It was Hagrid. Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets. Why does Harry tell Ron that? Notice what Harry's doing, first of all. He's believing what he reads. Okay? Believing what he reads. One of the things Rowling is going to do from this point on is she's going to slightly suggest, don't believe everything you read. Read whatever you read, how? Critically. That is, have that gray matter engaged. And reading means not only reading like words on a page. It means viewing information like the news. It means applying some good skepticism. It doesn't mean doubt all authority, like, the bumper stickers say. It just means question the source of what you're hearing or seeing or reading. Okay? Harry doesn't question the diary, right? He takes it as gospel truth, if Harry knew what gospel truth was. He doesn't, by the way. It's pretty clear in the books. Rowling portrays Harry as completely a tabula rasa when it comes to any kind of spiritual knowledge or understanding or awareness. I mean, it's like he's lived under a rock and has never heard of Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or, pick your religious leader, so to speak. Okay? So, chapter Cornelius Fudge. Diary's missing. Pages 254, 55. Harry hears the voice again. They're heading down for a Quidditch match. And Hermione says, 255, I think I've just understood something. I've got to go to the library. Okay? Ron, why she got to go to Harry, why she got to go to the library? Ron, because that's what Hermione does. When in doubt, go to the library. Why? Because answers, knowledge, etc. are found in books for Hermione. Okay? So the Quidditch match gets called off because another student has been attacked. And there Ron and Harry see Hermione. Okay? So they use the cloak and they go down to talk to Hagrid. They're talking to Hagrid. He realizes somebody's at the door. They throw the cloak over them, hide in the corner, and in comes Dumbledore and Cornelius Fudge, page 261. Ron points out to Harry, that's Dad's boss. Who's the Minister for Magic in the Wizarding world? What's he equivalent to in our system? President. It's not just that's Dad's boss. It's like the Prime Minister. Okay? Dumbledore says, Fudge comes in. Bad business, Hagrid. Very bad business. Had to come. 4 attacks on Muggleborns. Things have gone far enough. Ministry's got to act. You know it. Dumbledore, I want it understood, Cornelius. Notice he doesn't call him Mr. Minister. He calls him by his first name. Hagrid has my full confidence. Look, Albus. Hagrid's record's against him. What's Hagrid's record? 50 years ago, he was expelled for opening the chamber. That's his record. Right? School governors have been in touch. I tell you again, taking Hagrid away will not help in the slightest. In other words, Dumbledore's saying, if you want to stop these attacks, taking Hagrid's not going to do that. Right? Fudge. Key words here. Look at it from my point of view. I'm under a lot of pressure. Got to be seen to be doing something. We're going to hear that exact same language in 6. Okay? With the new minister. He's going to say, people have got to see that the ministry is doing something. You guys most of you are all too young to remember. After 9/11, that same fall, there were anthrax attacks. Okay? And the government actually put out this little pamphlet about things to do, in case there was a danger. There was also some talk about there could be suitcase nukes out, and there could be a rogue nuclear weapon set off, and things you could do. And I'm old enough to remember back in the 60s and stuff when we had growing up in the Bay Area, real near NASA and Ames Research and Stanford Linear Accelerator and stuff. We would be a very quick target. The duck and cover stuff, but also things about taping windows, like the seams around window corners, so that if there was a nuclear explosion, a little bit of duct tape is going to keep the radiation out, kind of a thing. And all of that was designed for what? We're in control. Don't worry, we'll protect you. It's not going to do squat. Okay? Same thing with the anthrax stuff. Not even anthrax. COVID. This isn't going to do squat. It has maybe, all the studies have shown 10% effectiveness. Okay, cloth or less. And there's people walking around, with those neck gaiter things. That's like wearing a mesh stocking. Just doesn't do any good at all. Okay, got to be seen doing something. What's he talking about? Public perception. That's it. Does the doing something actually have to do something? No. It's got to be seen doing something. I've got to take him. Take him? Hagrid, take me? Take me where? Short stretch only. Not a punishment, Hagrid. More a precaution. This is for your own safety. Where's he getting taken? Azkaban. What's Azkaban in our world? Alcatraz. Okay, Alcatraz is, now it's a tourist site. 40 years ago, I take that back. Because it wasn't a prison 40 years ago. 50 years ago, it was still a prison. I remember going to San Francisco, you'd be there sitting on Pier 9 and you could look out. There's Alcatraz, okay? One of our most feared prisons in the United States system. Alcatraz, San Quentin, Rikers Island in New York, a variety, Stark Federal Penitentiary in Florida and such. Okay? He's going to get taken to prison without what happening first? The trial. What did Dumbledore say to Snape after they saw the words, and there's Mrs. Norris hanging, and Snape wants Harry expelled? Innocent until proven guilty. Well, that is not a central tenet in the wizarding justice system. Okay? So then who shows up? Lucius Malfoy. So not only is Hagrid going to be removed, but Malfoy is there to remove Dumbledore. Malfoy is one of the one of the governors on the board of governors of Hogwarts. And notice we're told he has gotten all 12 governors' signatures on this thing to remove Dumbledore. Fudge is like, come on, you can't remove Dumbledore, I mean. Notice, Fudge immediately gets put in the shoes of Dumbledore defending Hagrid. Now Fudge has to defend Dumbledore. See here, if Dumbledore can't stop them, what does Fudge mean by that? Louder? He's the best there is. Notice he doesn't say, if the ministry can't stop these attacks, it's Dumbledore's head and shoulders above. Okay? We never really see how fearsome / awesome Dumbledore is, right? Until the end of book 4. And then you're kind of like, whoa. It's like Gandalf uncloaked, So, Hagrid says, 263, you take Dumbledore, taking him, more Muggleborns won't stand a chance, they'll be killing next. Dumbledore says, calm down, Hagrid. Dumbledore says, bottom of 263, you will find that I will only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. You will also find that help will also be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. Look at the next sentence. For a second, Harry was almost sure Dumbledore's eyes flickered toward the corner where he and Ron stood hidden. Big, big question. How are Harry and Ron hidden? They're on their invisibility cloak. If Harry's perception is correct, and Dumbledore's eyes do flick towards them, what's that telling us? It's either one of two things. He can see through the invisibility cloak, which would mean it's not a true invisibility cloak if it doesn't confer total invisibility. Or, what's another possibility that I never thought of until just now? I got to give away something from book 5. Dumbledore is a legilimens, or legilimens, however you want to pronounce it. What does that mean? Anybody know? He can see what other people are thinking. It's not he can read minds, so to speak. If the second possibility could be he's perceiving Harry and Ron's minds, presences there. Okay. There's only one of two possibilities. He can see through the invisibility cloak or the other. Go back to the Chamber's prisoners, Philosopher's Stone for a moment. When Dumbledore is in the room, Harry comes in to see the mirror again. When Dumbledore speaks to Harry, Harry has the invisibility cloak on. And he's shocked. And Dumbledore says, funny how nearsighted an invisibility cloak can make you. Nearsighted means you only see things up close. Because Harry thinks he's invisible, Nobody else can see him. Dumbledore's kind of saying, not entirely true. Okay? So, notice what he has just said. You will find I will only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. Okay? And help will always be given to those who ask for it. And Malfoy's like, admirable sentiments. In other words, yeah, right. And then Hagrid has to add his last two words as they're being let out. Follow the spiders. Dumbledore's a little more, noble, right? His comments are virtuous. Hagrid, follow the spiders. Dad'd lead him right. Aragog. What do you think goes through Ron's mind when he says, follow the spiders? No, I'm not following any spiders. I don't like spiders, okay? So, Harry and Ron go off and follow the spiders. And they meet up with Aragog. Page 277. They meet with him a little bit earlier than that, but 277 and following. And Aragog tells them he never did what? He didn't kill the girl 50 years ago. Okay? Hagrid did let him out, but he wasn't the thing that killed him. He talks about, the things the spiders fear the most, the basilisk and such. Okay? He tells them we don't speak of it and such. And then Harry says, okay, well, thanks for the conversation. We'll be leaving now. And he's like, no. I have a, oath with Hagrid. I and my sons and daughters, we won't bother Hagrid, but, you guys are young, juicy meat, your food. And the flying Ford Anglia comes and rescues them. Okay? So, we have Colin Creevey in the infirmary, right? He's been petrified. Who went next? Justin Finch-Fletchley. Okay, in the guy who was in the duel. He went next. Okay. Who now? Two other people. Hermione and Penelope, Percy's girlfriend. Okay. And the next chapter, Chamber of Secrets, we get another one. I'm trying to see where to find this. They go up to Hermione's bedside. They pull the piece of paper out. They figure out, what it means. Basilisk has been traveling through the pipes of the building. And 292 and following. There's a sudden announcement. All the students are to return to their house dormitories. Harry and Ron don't. They go and listen to the staff in the staff room, page 293. Ginny's been taken. Okay? Which makes it personal for Ron, definitely, but also for Harry. Because Ginny, at this point, is like a sister to him. It's a little weird later, but yeah. So they go and Harry and Ron tell Lockhart it's time for him to do what? This is your bandwidth. All that stuff you said you did. And what does Lockhart prove true? Yes, I said I did it. I didn't do any of that. Okay. Page 297. Harry, you're the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. You can't go down with all the dark stuff. Well, I must say, when I took the job, I didn't expect you're running away. Books can be misleading. You wrote them. My dear boy, use your common sense. My books wouldn't have sold half as well if people didn't think I'd done all those things. In other words, my books would not have sold if people knew I didn't do them. No one wants to read about some ugly old Armenian warlock, even if he did save a village from werewolves. He'd look dreadful on the front cover. No dress sense at all. And the witch who banished the man and banshee. I mean, she had a hairlip. Come on. What's his point? We want our heroes how? Handsome, beautiful, gilded. Harry, there was work involved. I mean, I had to track these people down. The Romanian warlock and the old witch with the hairlip. You know, I had to ask them how they managed to do what they did. Then I had to put a memory charm on them so that they wouldn't remember it. I mean, come on. That was work. Okay? So, they force Lockhart to go down with them. Harry figures out how to open the entrance to the secret chamber. How? Because he essentially says open, and he says it in parcel talk. Okay? Bottom of 303. They get down into the chamber, and Lockhart says, the adventure ends here, boys. I shall take a bit of the skin back up to the school because the basilisk is shed. Tell them I was too late to save the girl. You two tragically lost your minds. And when they fell in the scuffle, he grabs Ron's wand, does obliviate, okay? Obliviate, wipe out, and he fires it at himself. Cave in. Harry goes on. Ron stays there with Lockhart. Heir of Slytherin. Harry goes in and he sees Ginny, runs to her side, and there's Tom Riddle. And Harry's like, but it's not flesh and blood, Tom Riddle, right? Don't think of the film. Think of how it's described here. He's kind of shimmering. Think, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda and Anakin Skywalker at the end of Harry Potter and the Empire Strikes Back, at the end of Revenge of the Jedi, all right? And Harry's like, are you a ghost? A memory. And there's the diary. You got to help me, Tom. What did Lockhart say to Harry? Use your common sense. What's Harry showing us here? He's not real great in the common sense department. He's pretty good thinking on his feet, but common sense, okay? And he looks and notices Tom Riddle has Harry's wand. Okay, so what does that tell us about the Tom Riddle that he sees? There is some physical nature there, otherwise he could not be holding the wand. Right? Spirit, aka wind, breath. The words are all related in the Greek and English languages. Can't hold something physical. And Harry's like, thanks. And he doesn't hand it over. We've got to, the basilisk, it won't come until I call. What do you mean? Duh. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean I've waited a long time for this, Harry Potter, to speak to you? Look, I don't think you get it. No, it's Harry's the one that's particularly dense here. So, Tom explains how he was able to get Ginny to pour her soul into the diary. Haven't you guessed yet? Page 310. Ginny Weasley opened the Chamber of Secrets. She strangled the school roosters. Dog threatened. No, yes. And he goes on and he talks about what Ginny wrote into the diary. That's what all the words in italics are on 310 and 311. And he says, and Ginny told me about you. Oh, and I was excited to know about you. I wanted to learn more about you. So Tom talks about what he did when he was at school. 312. It had taken me 5 whole years to find out everything I could about the Chamber of Secrets and discover the secret entrance. Okay, if it had taken him 5 years, then when did he start? His first year. He says only one person saw through me, or only one person was difficult, the Transfiguration teacher. Who's the Transfiguration teacher now? McGonagall. Okay. Dumbledore seemed to think Hagrid was innocent. Harry, I bet Dumbledore saw right through you. Okay. So Tom Riddle goes on and talks about, wanting to finish Salazar Slytherin's noble work, but you haven't finished it. He says no one's died. In a few hours, the Mandrake's drop will be ready. Everyone will be fixed. He says, no, you don't understand. I don't care about that anymore. It's you. And he goes on and on. Notice, if you've seen The Incredibles, okay, there's a scene in there where the villain makes a statement. And the statement is demonstrating what Tom Riddle is doing here. Anybody remember what I'm talking about if you've seen? It's the scene when the whole family gets caught. And what does the villain say? Because Mr. Incredible gets him to start talking. And he says, you got me monologuing, you dirty little. You slide dog. Why does he say that? Because in every movie with a villain, what causes the villain to get caught? The monologue. Because the villain seems to think, I'm invulnerable, I've already won. Tom Riddle gets caught monologuing. All right? Harry, why do you care how I escaped? Bottom of 313. Voldemort was after your time. Voldemort is my past, present, and future. And he pulls out Harry's wand and he writes in the air, Tom Marvolo Riddle, and then does what? And Tom Marvolo Riddle becomes, I am Lord Voldemort. But how, Dumbledore, McGonagall asks. And Dumbledore says, not how, but who. Rearrange the letters. There's another spot in the novels, where somebody uses the word, I think it's book 5, where somebody uses the word evil, in the very next sentence, the word veil. Rearrange the letters. Okay? So, Harry says, after Riddle says, I'm the greatest dark wizard, greatest sorcerer in the world, Harry goes, you're not. Not what? Not the greatest sorcerer in the world. Sorry to disappoint you in all that. And I kind of wish she had thrown, the particular Britishism, old boy, that Harry had said, sorry to disappoint you in all that, old boy. Okay, just to really emphasize it. But the greatest wizard in the world is Albus Dumbledore. Everyone says so. What's Harry doing? He's showing loyalty. Right? Even when you were strong, you didn't dare try and take over Hogwarts. In other words, you're just the memory of a 16-year-old kid. Even when you were at the height of your powers, you wouldn't take on Dumbledore directly. And notice, that stuck. That was the knife. Now he's got Tom Riddle angry. And just like Aragorn, showing himself in the Palantir to, not Voldemort, Sauron, okay? He made Sauron attack early. He gets Tom Riddle to stop thinking clearly. Dumbledore's been driven out of this castle by the mere memory of me. No. Dumbledore was driven out of the castle by what? Lucius Malfoy. Playing tricks. Well, not really playing tricks. We'll talk about that. Yeah. 5 minutes. I got to finish this. So, Harry defeats Tom Riddle. How? Real quickly. Basilisk and Fox. Okay? He cries for help. Notice, he puts the hat on, and it's kind of like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But there's no Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's just, help me, somebody help me. And Sword draws out. He kills the basilisk. Fawkes cries on his arm. He's healed. Stabs the diary. The basilisk, the memory of Tom Riddle, is gone. He rescues Ron and Lockhart. They get up to the staff room. Okay? And Harry has a conversation with Dumbledore at the end. It's his debriefing. Right? The Weasleys are sent off to help take care of Ginny and stuff. Ron's taken out, so it's just Harry and Dumbledore. And Dumbledore says, I need to thank you, Harry. You must have shown me real loyalty in order for Fawkes to come. And so you met Tom Riddle. I bet he was interested in meeting you. He says, he said we're alike. And notice, Dumbledore plays kind of the role of comforter counselor. Really, Harry? And tell me, how did that make you feel? What do you think, Harry? I don't think I'd like him. I'm a Gryffindor. And then what does Harry do? But the Sorting Hat said, I would have done well in Slytherin. Everyone thought I was Slytherin there, because I can speak Parseltongue. You can speak Parseltongue, Harry, because Lord Voldemort, who is the last remaining ancestor of Salazar Slytherin, can speak Parseltongue. Right? Key sentence. Unless I'm much mistaken, he transferred some of his own powers to you the night he gave you that scar. Not something he intended to do. And then, key statement, Harry interprets what Dumbledore said. So, Dumbledore said he transferred some of his own powers. Harry takes that to mean he put a bit of himself in me. Both statements are true, but they're different at the same time, right? Powers is like theory, immaterial. A bit of himself, that's practical. That's material. Dumbledore, it certainly seems so. And then Harry makes a logical conclusion on the basis of that. If he put a bit of himself in me, then I should be in Slytherin. The Sorting Hat could see Slytherin's power in me. Talent? Oh my, yes. Dumbledore says, it put you in Gryffindor. Why, Harry? Come on, think. Teaching moment. Because I asked not to? Bingo. Which makes you very different from Tom Riddle. It is our choices. And this is the Aesopian moral of the story. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. And we're going to see that idea resonate until the end of the 7th book. Okay? Because Harry makes a choice all throughout. As an example, Harry gets in fights later on. Death fights. What curse does he never use? Avada Kedavra. The worst one he does is Cruciatus. And the person he uses it on really deserves it. Okay? But usually what does he use? Expelliarmus. Okay? And he says, you need proof? Look at the sword, Harry. And Harry sees the name, Godric Gryffindor. And what does Dumbledore say? Which Harry probably interprets meaning what? Only somebody who really belongs in Godric Gryffindor's house. What does Dumbledore mean? Just as Tom Riddle was the last descendant of Slytherin, Harry, you are a descendant of Godric Gryffindor. Okay? So, how does Harry finally get his, let's say, revenge on Malfoy? Notice the difference between what is said in the book and how it's done in the film. In the film, Harry puts the sock inside the book like this. and hands it to Malfoy. The book being the diary. In the book, he stuffs the book inside the sock. So what must Malfoy do to get to the book? He's got to pull it out of the dirty, smelly, wet sock. So he's got to touch it and throw it. See, in the book, he could just, in the film, he could just do this and let it drop on the ground. All right. We'll stop there. So Prisoner of Azkaban, Monday. Keep forgetting what day this is.